A girlfriend's shocking accusation. A wife's night out turned into betrayal. Parents begging to meet the grandkids they once rejected. These aren't just disagreements. They're explosive "Am I the asshole" stories where trust shatters, tempers flare, and lines get crossed. Let's dive in and see who's really at fault. And if you love dramatic Reddit stories, hit that subscribe button and help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Am I the asshole for not wanting to have sex? This happened a few weeks ago now, but it has been bugging me ever since. My girlfriend and I like to be very open about kinks, so we are always willing to try each other's wants at least once. My girlfriend very much enjoys the idea of being free use and having very rough sex. Then one night she asked if I could wait until she fell asleep, then have sex with her so that she could wake up to the feeling of it. I was a little hesitant, but if that was what she wanted, I did not mind. An hour after she had fallen asleep, I used lube and started off slow. After about 10 minutes, the lube was drying out, so I went to put more on, and she still had not woken up. It was dark, and I could not see well, and I ended up using a bit more lube than expected. She woke up saying that it really burned and was stinging, so I instantly stopped and went to get her a towel to clean up. When I got back with the towel, she asked what I was doing, and I told her I was doing what she had asked me to do. I am not sure if she forgot because she had just woken up, but she said that she never told me to do it. To me, that sounded like she was saying I raped her, which I expressed to her. She said it was not like that. We just put our clothes on and went to sleep. A few nights later, she tried to initiate sex again, touching me and kissing my neck to get me into the mood. But when I thought about it, I felt very uneasy and did not want to do anything. This feeling continued every time I thought about her sexually. After 2 weeks of no intimacy, she got very upset and yelled at me, saying that I do not touch her anymore and must not be in love with her. When I explained that ever since that night, and feeling like she implied I raped her, I had been uneasy and uncomfortable about sex, she yelled at me, calling me childish and saying it was nothing like that and that she forgave me, so I should just get over it. I do not think I am in the wrong here, especially because even a single accusation can ruin a person's entire life. Am I the asshole? It is hard to imagine being in your shoes, where an intimate moment that was supposed to be consensual and mutually desired turned into something that left you feeling accused, even if she later said that was not her intent. Whether she genuinely forgot or just reacted poorly in the moment, that night clearly changed the way you feel about physical intimacy with her. And that is not something you can just get over because she says so. If anything, it shows you are taking consent seriously, hers and yours. If the trust and comfort are gone, it is natural to need time or even space to heal from that. And speaking of uncomfortable situations, the next story is just as messy, this time involving family drama that spirals completely out of control. Am I the asshole for losing my mind after my wife's friend made her drink alcohol and tried to hook her up with another man? My wife went out with her friend for dinner. When her friend came over, she told us that it would just be her, my wife, and her other friends, and that they would be back in 2 hours or so. My wife did not really want to go, but I encouraged her to have fun. I was at home looking after our daughter, but after an hour, my wife suddenly texted me to pick her up. She said she was drunk, there was a man next to her, and she felt uncomfortable. Even if she had not been uncomfortable, I would have gone anyway. I was confused because it was supposed to be a girls only night. So, why was a man involved? I asked my sister in law to look after my daughter and went to pick my wife up. I was angry, but I did not want to embarrass my wife in front of everyone, so I said that my wife was drunk. She had never had alcohol before, and our daughter was calling for her. Then I took her home. My wife told me she was shocked to see a man join them for dinner, and that he was being overly friendly with her. He grabbed her hand, kept touching her shoulder, and she did not want to drink, but everyone kept pressuring her. I told my wife it was not her fault and that she should not blame herself, but I wanted clarification. I called her friend and asked why she would make my wife drink alcohol and why a man was involved when we had not been informed. She doubled down and said she did not need to inform me, that my wife should be able to handle alcohol, and that she should be fine with being around men. I called her a bitch, told her she was no true friend to my wife, and told her to stay away from both of us. I ended up telling everyone in their friend group about what she did, and most of the women cut her off. As expected, she is pissed. She said I did not need to be so dramatic and that she has lost some of her friends because of me. A few people from their group say the same thing. It is so stressful going back and forth with these people. I just want to cut them out of my life. The good ones can stay friends with my wife, but these, I want to ruin them. Am I the asshole? From where I am sitting, you are not the asshole here. Your wife's so-called friend put her in a situation that crossed boundaries, disrespected her comfort, and ignored basic trust. You did not explode in public, you got her home safely, and you confronted the person responsible. If someone thinks you were too dramatic for standing up for your wife, that probably says more about their morals than yours. Honestly, I would have reacted the same way. Protecting my partner comes before keeping toxic friendships intact. And speaking of messy betrayals, the next story dives into a case where family loyalty is tested in ways no one saw coming. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my parents meet my children because they did not want me to marry my deaf wife? On a burner. I am a 29-year-old man. My parents did not see that my wife, 28, has a big heart, an awesome personality, and is beautiful. All they saw was that she was deaf. I asked them how ignorant they could be. They argued that she would pass her disability on to any children we had. Long story short, they said they would not accept her into the family. I told them that if that was the case, then they were not accepted into ours, and any children we had, they would never know about. Jessie cried when I reluctantly had to tell her why they were not attending our wedding. I hated my parents more for that. Only my sister, 29, came to the wedding, and she is the only one I speak to. I have not spoken to or seen my parents since. We now have twins, a boy and a girl. They are both hearing. My sister came to visit and said our parents found out about them. She asked me and Jessie if they could meet the twins. I immediately shut that down. I told my sister to remind them that they rejected Jessie first and they could f off. My sister later texted and said they both wanted to apologize. I told her it was too late. I told Jessie about the request, and she said maybe we could reconsider and take it slow. My friend said it could be the healing and closure I need. I do not know if I want that. I do not know if they want to see my children because they found out they are hearing. I do not know if I am being selfish and only thinking about how I feel. Am I the asshole? From my point of view, uh, you are not the asshole here. This is not a case of a minor disagreement. It is years of your parents openly rejecting your wife for something completely out of her control. And that kind of hurt does not vanish just because they suddenly change their minds. It is reasonable to question their motives, especially if the timing coincides with learning your children are hearing. Forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation, and no one gets automatic access to your kids after showing that level of cruelty. And speaking of strained family ties, the next story takes things up a notch, where loyalty, betrayal, and an impossible choice collide. Am I the asshole for leaving when I was asked to babysit, forcing my dad's fiancée to cancel her plans? I am a 17-year-old male. I lived with my mom until a year ago, when her disability got to the point where she was placed in a care home that is like a hospice. My dad was never a big presence in my life, and he is still not. I live at his place, but I need to be self-sufficient and pay for my own expenses or get help from my maternal grandparents to cover them. It is all kinds of messed up, but he has always been that way. His reason for having me there is so he would not have to pay child support anymore, since he had to pay for 16 years before that. My grandparents even promised they would not ask for child support. But he still said no, and he was smug about the fact that he was my dad and that he would win over them anyway. My dad is engaged to a woman who has a 3-year-old with someone else and a 6-month-old with my dad. I moved in around the same time she and her older child did, and she was pregnant then. I do not know much about her, and I do not spend time around her or the kids. Last Saturday, I had a day off work and was not planning on doing anything. My dad and his fiance told me I needed to babysit the kids because they had plans. My dad left first, and she told me she would be gone about 6 hours for about 6 hours. She started trying to explain the schedule for the 6-month-old and the 3-year-old, but I immediately said no way and left the house. I did not have anything planned, but I was not willing to babysit. I left before she could go, and although she tried yelling after me, I kept walking. I did not return to the house until late that night. By then, my dad was home, and both of them started yelling at me, saying I had no right to walk out and leave the kids without a sitter. I pointed out that their mother was home when I left, and while they claimed that was not the point, I told them it absolutely was. I made it clear I did not want to babysit. I did not have to babysit, and they should find someone else because I would leave every single time they tried to dump childcare on me. She tried guilt tripping me about canceling her plans, but I asked why it was my problem that she did not arrange a sitter beforehand. Then she got her sister, who I had never met, to come over and tell me I was a horrible person who was taking my daddy issues out on her sister and her niece's nephews. I rolled my eyes, packed my things, and left. I am hoping my dad does not try to take this to custody court, but if he does, I hope he gets a date after I turn 18 so it's a complete waste of time. Am I the asshole? I am asking because I know she personally did not do anything to me, and maybe she would have appreciated it or something. I do not know. From where I stand, you are not the asshole here. Babysitting is a responsibility that should be agreed upon, not forced on someone, especially not a 17-year-old who is already living in a complicated and emotionally strained environment. Your dad and his fiance's failure to plan ahead is not your emergency, and you were clear about your boundaries from the start. Just because you live in the same house does not make you free childcare, and walking away before being cornered into it was fair. And while that's a tense household situation, the next story takes family dysfunction to an entirely new level, where decades old grudges suddenly come back to life. Perspective. Am I the asshole for threatening to quit my job if my dad continues what he is doing? For some background, I am a 16-year-old female, and I have lived with my dad, who is 64 years old, for about a year now. My parents are divorced, and I am not close with my mother. I am going into my senior year, I'm graduating a year early, and start school again in about a week. Last year in November, I began working at a restaurant as a hostess to save up for a car. I take the bus to and from school as well as to work, and a car would save me a lot of time. I make minimum wage and bring in a little over $1,000 a month after taxes. I put about 60 to 70% of that into savings and spend the rest on various things like going out with friends or Funko Pops. In February of this year, my dad told me that since I was making so much money, I needed to start contributing to the household. At first, this was fine. He asked that I pay for my phone bill and utilities. We rent from a family member, so utilities are discounted and my phone bill is not too expensive either. Both things came to about $200. With this, I was saving less, but still had spending money and was setting aside $400 to $500 a month for the car. In July, he decided I needed to pay a portion of the rent. I tried to argue with him, but he threatened to close my account, which he can do because he opened it for me. I had to start giving him $500 on top of the $200 a month, totaling $700 a month. With the $300 I had left, I saved $200 for the car and kept $100. I was already fed up at this point, but it got worse. I keep some cash in a jar in my room in case I go do something where I cannot use a card. I had about $300 in the jar from several months. Last week, I came home from work and the jar was empty. When I asked my dad, he said that since I am his daughter, he is entitled to the money I make. I was furious. I told him he had to give it back, but he had already spent it on random Amazon purchases. He then told me he wanted $100 extra a month because I should not have that much money just for me. After all this, I'm only pulling in $200 a month if I do not save any of it. Last night, I told my dad I was going to give my 2 weeks' notice. I work hard, I am exhausted, and it is not worth the few $100s I get. He was furious and said that I owe it to him to contribute to the household. I go to work in a few hours and I am planning on letting them know I will not be continuing. So, am I the asshole? Too long. Did not read. My dad takes the majority of my salary for himself, and working is no longer worth it, so I am quitting my job. Update. First of all, thank you to everyone who responded and gave advice. I did not expect this to get so many upvotes and comments. I was expecting maybe 50 at most, so just wow. I posted this on a Thursday and went to work that day as usual. I decided against my better judgment not to tell my boss anything right away. The restaurant I work at is a small family owned business, and I am pretty close with my boss, the owner. She is kind of like an auntie and is a family friend, how I got the job at 15. On Friday, when I went in, I told her briefly about the situation. I asked her not to report it, which she agreed to. Someone suggested asking if I could get my checks in cash, so I asked her, and she said yes. I now have my cash hidden in a locked box my dad does not know the combination to, and I will probably continue keeping it there. My dad would have to close the account I currently have, so it is still open for now. My dad is out of the state until Monday, so I am home alone and have time to make sure all my cash and belongings are out of his reach. To address some of the comments, my dad is not physically abusive and did not harm my mother in any way. They only have a 7-year age gap and met later in life. My dad is not a bad person, but he is sick. He has been an alcoholic for as long as I can remember, and while I do not know how he could possibly be spending $800 a month on alcohol, I am sure he is. I am moving out next year, so emancipation does not seem worth the cost and time it would take. I do not have much contact with extended family. We rent the place from an aunt who lives in another state, and we really only see her at Christmas, so I do not think she could really help. CPS has been involved in our family a lot for reasons I have explained in comments, and I am not willing to have them reopen that wound for me. As for the police, I do not want them involved either. I have reported things to the police in the past when I needed help, and they were completely useless and honestly really cruel about it. To people who have direct messaged me, I am sorry if I have not answered you yet. A few creepy people have asked things that are really weirdly personal or not relevant. For example, asking for pictures of me or my address, so I am ignoring most of them. So, yeah, that is the update for now. I might add more later, but it is late and I am tired. Reading this, I cannot see how anyone could think you are the asshole here. Your dad is essentially stealing from you and using his parental authority to justify it, which is not okay in any form. You worked for that money, you budgeted responsibly for a goal, and he not only drained your savings, but also tried to force more out of you. Quitting your job might not solve everything long term, but it stops him from exploiting your hard work right now, and that alone is a power move. Family or not, respect is earned, not taken. Anyway, on to the next story, where helping out a sibling spirals into a full-blown family war. AITA for giving my pregnant girlfriend an ultimatum. Edit. 1. I am fully aware that Jen has raging hormones. Trust me, I was dealing with a lot more than just her insistence on searching my phone constantly. 2. I have been doing individual counseling for 6 years. I want to do couples counseling and for Jen to do individual counseling. 3. I left because Jen lied to me. Post. My girlfriend and I have been together for 4 years. Back in April, two great things happened. We found out Jen is pregnant and I closed on a house for us to move into. Our family and friends know about the pregnancy, including Jen's best childhood friend, Amanda. I will admit I never liked the dynamic between Amanda and Jen, but it did not really affect our relationship since Amanda lived across the country. After finding out about the pregnancy, Amanda decided to move back home. We live in Jen and Amanda's hometown. Amanda has been back since late May and all hell has broken loose. Jen has always felt a little self-conscious in our relationship. I work construction and do personal training. She feels intimidated by smaller women, but I have no idea why. She is an incredibly attractive woman with amazing curves. Amanda has done nothing but play into Jen's insecurities and anxieties since being back. Jen and I have never been the tracking location couple or the looking through each other's phones couple. We always considered that a red flag in a relationship. Amanda has convinced Jen that she needs to start doing that. So she has been looking through my phone regularly and finding nothing. I have communicated my hurt and frustration and told her that I think she needs to distance herself from Amanda. She kept brushing off my concerns. About 2 weeks ago, Jen again asked to look through my phone. I told her in no uncertain terms that this would be the last time she looked through my phone. If she again saw nothing suspicious, then she needed to agree to go to counseling and distance herself from Amanda. She agreed, looked through my phone, and found nothing suspicious. But she soon went back on her promise to do counseling and distance herself from Amanda. I decided to move out. We are currently on a month-to-month lease in an apartment until renovations are done on the house I bought. I am staying with a friend until the house is ready, and then I will move in alone. Jen has asked me to reconsider, but I refuse. She will likely need to move in with her mother, which is not ideal given the limited space, and I feel terrible about that for my child. AITA? From where I'm sitting, it is pretty clear the writer is not the asshole here. Setting boundaries, especially when trust is being chipped away, is not wrong. Pregnancy hormones are not. The real turning point was Jen making a clear agreement, finding nothing to justify her suspicions, and then breaking her word. That is not just emotional strain, that is a breach of trust. Amanda's influence seems toxic, but ultimately, Jen chose to let that toxicity dictate her actions. I do feel bad for the unborn child who will be caught between this mess, but keeping a steady and self respecting environment matters too.